Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I had to play guess which one of our witnesses is from Montana, Mr. Chairman, I think you could probably figure that one out.
It's a tough choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they say in Montana there's some folks who are all hat and no cowboy. We've got somebody here who's all hat and all cowboy, truly. And it's I'm very proud to introduce Mr. Travis Brown, who's going to help us take a look today at the challenge associated with the misuse of the Antiquities Act. He's here to testify to the controversy surrounding unilateral designations of national monuments in my home state of Montana. Just for perspective, Travis comes from a county that is 5,000 square miles. That is the size of Connecticut, this county, and there's 1,200 people there. In fact, the ratio of cows to people is 5 to 1 in Garfield County. My grandma and Travis's grandma used to cross paths at a women's boutique store in Billings when Mrs. Brown came to town. They're real happy because she came a long ways from Sand Springs, Montana to come to Billings to shop in a store that she worked at. But like me, Travis Brown is a multi-generation Montanan. The Brown family owns a cattle ranch and is one that has safeguarded the land responsibly for decades and for generations. The ranch is located near the Missouri Breaks, where there was the 11th hour monument designation by President Clinton of almost 400,000 acres of the Upper Missouri River Breaks National Monument adjacent to private land and the Charles M. Russell Wildlife Refuge. His family manages the ranch with land use by future generations in mind, just like any good Montanan. Improving their land is part of their management philosophy. The Brown family and their employees have an intimate knowledge and commitment to their land that Washington bureaucrats do not understand. His family ranch has firsthand knowledge of federal mismanagement and how it impacts the health of their cattle and the short and long-term health of their land. Both are integral parts of their livelihood in Montana. And the Brown family, like many other Montanans, local land stewardship is a source of food for their families. It's a future back home for their children and grandchildren, and these ranches are passed on through generations and is an important source of revenue for local counties and our state. Mr. Brown, thank you for coming here today, and thank you for your commitment to our home state of Montana. We look forward to your testimony.
Thank you. Chairman Bishop, Ranking Member Grijalva, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for inviting me to testify today on Representatives Nunes' bill, House Resolution 2192, the National Monument Designation, Transparency, and Accountability Act. My name is Travis Brown. Today I'm representing the Montana Stock Growers Association and the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. I'm the fourth generation on our family ranch, LO Cattle Company, headquartered just west of Sand Springs, Montana. For over 50 years, we've managed this resource with the next generation in mind. For 5 decades, we've steadily worked to improve the condition of our rangeland, and with great results. Like many ranches across the West, we also depend on a cooperative partnership on public lands, making responsible use of the forage, in our case BLM land, to sustain our operation. We treat those lands with the same care we do our private land. Not only have our cattle benefited from this management, it has become host to wildlife species including sage grouse, mule deer, whitetails, antelope, and elk. At the same time, we see how poor management is harming wildlife and resources on the nearby Charles M. Russell National Wildlife Refuge and the Upper Missouri River Breaks National Monument. Like most specially designated federal lands, the CMR and increasingly the adjacent monument are managed with a largely hands-off approach. By this I mean reduced livestock grazing, reduced timber management, and as a result, vegetation overgrowth. This causes a major reduction in water flow and an increased threat of wildfire. In 2003, we saw and helped fight a major fire, the Missouri Breaks Complex Fire, which caused catastrophic damage to wildlife, recreation, and ranching in our area. Not surprisingly, another result of the poor management has been the migration of wildlife from the refuge to adjacent lands that are being well managed. While we are happy to host a healthy amount of wildlife, this migration is increasing pressure on forage lands we graze. Meanwhile, the reduction in water volume coming off the refuge is further contributing to the strain on our resources. A similar scenario is happening on the monument, and unfortunately, grazing there is being challenged through the federal courts. In counties like Garfield, where ranching on public lands is a main driver of our economy, the grazing reductions on areas as large as the CMR affect our entire county's economy. Currently, an ongoing lawsuit is threatening to remove 10,000 head of cattle from the Upper Missouri Breaks Monument. This is no special case. A new lawsuit is underway to remove grazing on the Sonoran Desert National Monument in Arizona, which already saw great reductions in grazing at the time of its designation. A third example, the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument in Utah has seen major reductions in grazing, and more closures are being considered as we speak. Now, grazing is just one of the multiple uses being negatively affected by these monuments. Communities in the surrounding areas are suffering because of this economically, and in some cases, schools are shutting down. Many more families like mine stand to be impacted should monument designations go forward. This is why Representative Nunes' bill is so important. The bill would apply the benefits of congressional deliberation to all potential monuments and make sure that the voices of those of us impacted on the ground are heard. Representative Bishop also takes a positive approach on his bill, 1459, which would require NEPA review to be applied to proposed monument designations. This bill would provide transparency and the opportunity for public input. And of course, as a Montanan, I also support Representative Daines' bill, the Montana Land Sovereignty Act, to ensure no monuments are designated in Montana without congressional approval. In my opinion, the best way to leave a legacy and protect these truly special places is by leaving them in the hands of the responsible stewards on the local level who have carefully managed this resource for generations. This legislation will help protect these national treasures from a quick designation out of Washington in the 11th hour with little regard to the impacts that it will have on the lands being considered, the wildlife being affected, and the people that live there. Objectives and agendas for land use planning can change from administrations and agency staff personnel. Family ranchers manage for their grandkids with future generations in mind. Ranchers are the ones keeping private land as open space rather than housing developments. And we're on the ground day in and day out, watching over the land and resources because our livelihoods depend on it. Thank you.